Welcome back, everybody. We are here, episode 23, defining success on your own terms and what success means to you. So basically, the reason why I made this video is because a lot of times we like to compare ourselves to, the ones around us, our neighbors, our family, like whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, though, success is determined on your own terms, and what your goals are may not be the same for everyone else. And that's completely fine. As long as you're living a healthy lifestyle that you're in order to build, and be there with your family, be there with your kids. I just think that overall, like, you can feel wealth within having a good life. There's people who make tons of money and are miserable. There's people who makes it day by day and truly love everything they have in life. So my goal for me is to kind of find that middle ground between the two and to make sure I'm just doing the right things, necessary things, while still enjoying life with my fam. So with that being said, we're going to start off with the intro. There's a lot going on right now. The whole war with Iran. I'm interested to see the economic effects of that. You're already seeing gas prices shoot through the roof. And I was reading an article yesterday on diesel. So diesel is also going through the roof. And I could touch more on that later with another video. But man, the administration, Trump and them, it's not a good time for them. Just a couple of weeks ago, Supreme Court ruled that their tariffs were illegal. That was actually a 6-3 ruling that Trump's tariffs were illegal. So essentially, what Trump tried to do is he said it was emergency under the IEEPA, but you need congressional approval for that, and he did not get it. So it's still very early in the decision, but the government's going to have to refund, or currently under lawsuits to refund any tariffs that these major corporations had to pay. Now, since they're technically illegal. For those who say like, oh, it's not a tax on citizens, like I never understood that. We have to understand that the reason why prices didn't skyrocket off the tariffs is because earlier in 2025, businesses bought a bunch of inventory. They loaded up on a bunch of inventory. Now that inventory is running out, and then you're kind of seeing that with these new inflation reports that are coming out. So as you see, as inflation gets higher, prices are going to start getting higher based off majority of the tariffs. So to say it's not a tax on citizens, why would the U.S. government refund U.S. businesses and not foreign countries if it's not a tax to the U.S.? That doesn't really make sense to me. There's no reason why they would do that. So it's because the businesses gets the tax, and then when the prices increased, they will funnel those prices to you, the American consumer. So I know the administration's blaming it on the Supreme Court if prices were to go up. Economic consequences, they're going to say it's on the Supreme Court. But the way I look at it is basically, instead of verifying that it was legal, you did it anyway without actually knowing, while actually having a backup plan in case the Congress ruled that they're not in favor of it. You put people in the Supreme Court thinking that they were just going to do your bidding, but at the end of the day, the Constitution stands that this is a legal thing to do. No president in history has tried to use the IEEPA to enact tariffs. So I just think before you brought out that big board, the big chart with all the countries and how much you're going to tariff them, you should have verified it if it was fully legal. So if anything were to happen negative on the economy, that would then, in my opinion, still fall back on you. Ignorance is not an excuse. And also, we were never going to get that 2000 tariff check. Like, we were never going to get that. If you looked at the numbers, the tariffs just didn't make enough revenue for us to get to 2K on top of the plans that they had to do with the tariffs. At the end of the day, it's just math. If you go to the actual reports, review the reports, crunch the numbers, you would see that it just wasn't feasible. So we do know that big time corporations right now are trying to get a refund from the tariffs. My thing is though, like, those big time corporations make millions, billions of dollars. So like, we have a lot of farmers, a lot of small businesses that were impacted by the tariffs. And I think that any refund first should go to these small businesses, because these bigger corporations already have the money to sustain this, where you see foreclosures on farmers. You see small businesses closing down because everything's starting to get too expensive. So I think, in my personal opinion, that the small business owners should be compensated first, because that's the backbone of America. Those are the people who, they go through day to day. They make so many sacrifices. And not saying these big time corporations don't as well, but they have the capex and they have the money in play. They have the revenue to sustain compared to a small business who needs this to basically survive on their livelihood. So all this to say, I think the tariffs were a complete failure. Um, the U.S. had countries actually leave our supply chain to start buying from other countries around the world because of the tariffs. The last inflation report showed that inflation has increased the past 3 months and will continue to increase, especially now with this conflict and this war that we have with Iran. So I'm not big into politics. This is just the economic side of it. I don't really care when it comes to politics, but just the economic side of it, I know this is not what y'all voted for, because prices are up. Gas is going to be through the roof. I mean, gas on average right now is over $4 in the United States. Throughout all the states, obviously it fluctuates depending on where you live, what state you're in. We get that. But on the national average, it's $4. And if this war continues, you may see it go up to $5 plus. So a lot of risk is going on right now when it comes to Iran and when it comes to these tariffs. I know Trump just enacted global tariffs of 15%. Again, that's still something that is going to be passed on to you, the consumer, right? Businesses are not going to eat the whole 15%. Best and believe prices are going to continue to go up. So it's just a waiting game at this point. We'll see where things go. You see the market react. The market had a great day 2 days ago, and now it's starting to tank again. So we just got to kind of play it by ear. There's hopes that this is going to be a quick war. The way it looks like it continues to escalate, I don't see it being quick by any means. I just think this was done on a limb. For those Americans who are stuck in the Middle East, I pray for y'all to come home safely. There was no true evacuation plan for all this, and it's just one thing after another. And I just think that at some point we're going to run into a recession if this level continues. Credit card balances are up through the roof. Delinquencies are up through the roof. Foreclosures for homes are up through the roof. Everything that is and now we're in a war. Everything signaling a recession is right there. So we'll just have to see how it plays out when it comes to if we're going to actually enter a recession, because there's a lot of dangerous things going on right now throughout the Middle East and what we're experiencing here in our homeland when it comes to tariffs and inflation. So a couple things going on in sports for Dallas and Miami before we actually get started with the video. Dallas signed Williams to a 3-year team-friendly extension. I think it was like $16 million guaranteed. I love that. We needed to shore up our running back so we don't have to use a pick in the draft or go hunting in free agency where there's a lot of running backs. I love the signing for Williams to come back to Dallas. Dallas tagged Pickens as well. I think they should work on a long-term deal with Pickens. I know the cap. I'm pretty sure Dallas is over the cap right now, so they got to figure that out. But you don't give up that compensation and not sign him long-term, especially after the year he had last year. He looked fantastic with Dak out there last year. I think with the draft coming up, Dallas should just focus straight defense. We need help in the secondary. We need help with the safety spots. So I just think Dallas needs to focus strictly on defense as we go into the draft. Miami's been looking pretty good since the All-Star break. We had a couple bad games that I think Miami should have won. But all in all, the 6th seed is wide open right now in the East. I think with the Sixers missing PG for a couple more games, and I think with the injuries from the Magic, this is a perfect chance for Miami to take advantage and get out the play-in. You got Hero back. You're going to get Powell back. Bam's been playing phenomenal. Last night he had 5 fouls going into the third. Well, going into the fourth, he actually got his 5th mid third. I thought Spo should took him out, but it is what it is. But I just think Miami, if they can string along a nice little win streak, they should be able to climb up to the 6th seed and finally avoid the play-in. But more to come on that. But anyway, again, we're going to go ahead. We're going to get started with the video. Disclaimer. The information provided on this podcast is for informational entertainment purposes only. It should not be considered as financial advice. We are not licensed financial professionals, and any opinions shared are based on personal experiences and research. As always, do your own due diligence and consult with a certified financial advisor or professional before making any investment decisions. All right, so what does success look like to you? So the first thing you should ask yourself, well, there's 2 questions you should ask yourself. What does success mean to you, and what does it look like to you? Many people go through life trying to find validation through others, which I mean, I get it. You got social media, pressure from family, you see what your peers are doing. It's basically just human nature to make them happy or try to make them proud, to say they just hear, I'm proud of you, right? But you have to, ask yourself a third question. Am I doing this for their approval, or am I doing this because it's something I love and something that I'm committed to and something I'm passionate about? I'm a big believer that as long as it's not a self-harm, as long as you're trying to find ways to grow as a person, trying to help others, trying to help your community, then you will find yourself in that. And at some point, you won't care what other people think of you or care what they say what you're doing with your life. It's your life. So you only get one shot at life. So I think you should live it how you want to live it. So when you ask yourself, what does your success mean? It's basically, what are you looking for in life? Are you looking for a family? Are you looking for a high paying career? Are you looking to go nonprofit, volunteer? Are you looking to go help others when natural disasters happen? Like, what are you passionate about? And then you got to ask yourself, and this is my passion, what does success look like to me through that channel, and how can I get there? So obviously you need to have a plan. You need to be disciplined in anything you want to do to be great at what you do, right? So you need to sit down and ask yourself these things. And once you figure it out, and once you start doing it and you start seeing the success, because no one's going to see what you're doing on the back end. Like, no one sees the time that you take and the time that you sacrifice on the back end. They only see what is shown to them. Perfect example would be an NBA player, right? So you have someone like Curry. Curry will go in and he'll hit 12 threes in a game. And they're like, man, that's crazy. No one sees the work Curry puts in on the back end in order to do that. No one sees the time that he puts in, the sacrifices that he has to commit. LeBron to play for 23 years. No one see, he's playing still at a basically all-star level in his 23rd year. No one sees the work LeBron puts in on the back end in order for him to be that great for that long. So you need to understand that you have to accept what you're doing behind closed doors. And that starts with validating yourself and not getting validation from others, because they're going to ask you why you're doing this, what's going on, but they don't see exactly what you are doing. So this doesn't mean, like I said, doesn't really mean to take the easy road in life and sell yourself short. You never want to sell yourself short. It just means to identify your vision, identifying what you represent as a person, and identifying the goals that you have in life, and then putting in the work to make that happen. And then once you do that, I promise you won't care from any validation from anyone else besides yourself. All right. So like I said earlier, you know, why others may not understand your vision. It's simple. They're not seeing the work that you're putting in. They're not seeing the research you're putting in. They're not seeing the time that you put in. Others may not understand your goal and your vision. But to be honest with you, like, it's not meant for them to understand. It's, again, for you, defining your own success, not having other people write your life. Now, they're going to give you, a life advice and things like that. I'm not saying don't take advice. I'm not saying, um, you know, don't listen to those who have been through something that you are looking to go into, or what the case may be. I'm not saying that. Um, because no one's self-made, so you always need a support system to really help you out. But just because they don't understand, that doesn't mean what you're doing is necessarily wrong. So that's how I look at it. So you don't have to understand what I'm doing. Just know, if I think it's working and I feel it's working and I feel like it's best for me and my family, then that's the route I'm going to take. So I got a few reasons why, people don't have an understanding. One, they don't have the same passion for your set goals or vision that you have. So of course, if you go to your parent and tell them you want to, go be a dancer on Broadway, if they weren't a dancer, they never had that skill, or whatever the case may be, they won't truly understand. So if they go to try to shut it down, which they should never do, you should always support and be there for your kids. But if they go to try to shut it down, just know, like, okay, this is my fuel to prove you wrong. This is my fuel to go out and show you what I can do, um, and how I can hit these goals. There's a lot of sacrifice that go come in, a lot of dedication, a lot of time. So you have to understand that, like, if you want to be great, sacrifices have to come. And that's just, you can't have best of both worlds. Like, it's very rare to have best of both worlds. If you want to be great, if you want to do great things in said industry, said arts, said financially, you're going to have to make sacrifices. They haven't put in the time to research, such ideas or such items. So if I go to someone and say, "Oh yeah, like I like investing into the market," and they're like, "Okay, well that's a risk." Yeah, of course it's a risk. Tell me why it's a risk, and they can't because they don't understand, the market. No one can truly understand the market to begin with, but they don't understand just the fundamentals of the market, and they don't understand that, it be a betting game. 100%, 100% can be a betting game. If you do your research, if you sit down, pick up a book, and do some reading as well, you'll understand that there's always going to be risk in everything that you do, but doesn't mean you should have the fear to do it. Um, which goes into my next point. Fear, because it's human nature to fear what you don't understand. Fear that results aren't going to happen right away. So, results may not happen right away, and your family or your loved ones may see that, or those who care about you may see that, your friends may see that, and they may see that your results aren't happening right away. And they're like, "Oh, well, I told you so." But fear is one of the things that holds humans from being, their authentic self. Fear holds you from achieving your goals. And once you get over fear, I think you expand as a person and you can kind of go a long way. It was very fearful for me to start investing into the market. But once I did my research, watched my certain podcasts, I use AI a lot to help me with my research. I start seeing my gains and I'm like, okay, well, scared money don't make money, right? And same thing applies for you. Um, if you're fearful in what you want to do in life, you're never going to make it to its true potential. So yeah, you're going to have fear. And then if you have people in your circle always doubting you, the fear is just going to keep growing and growing and growing. So that's why you have to kind of block out the noise and understand your why, which we'll get into here in just a moment, and understand why you want to do this. But it's okay, but because again, it's your life, your story, your journey. They'll start to understand once they see it paying off. Um, no one understood why I just got up and moved to a whole different state a couple years ago. But now they understand because now they're seeing the benefits it had. They understand that, okay, well, that was obviously the best decision you've made in your life because look where you're going and look where you're doing. It takes discipline. It takes long nights. It takes dedication. It takes patience. It takes a burning passion. My burning passion was to prove everyone wrong who doubted me for getting up and moving. And understanding that it's not going to be in a day. You got to build day by day. And once you keep building day by day, trying to get better day by day, at some point, your compounding habits are going to then have a result for it. Hard work does pay off. It's just a matter of doing it. One of the biggest things is, like I mentioned, sacrifice. I left everything I knew. I left all my family to start anew, and it's paying off. Did it suck? Yes, 100%. But I understood my vision where other people didn't. And I didn't need other people to validate my vision because I knew the only person who can make this fail is myself. When people were doubting me, I never doubted myself because I knew the grind I had. One thing God gave me is go out and grind and go out and be disciplined. That's one thing God taught me throughout these past couple of years. And I really took that and I leaned on my loved ones here. I found my wife. I had kids. I built a career. I bought a house. No one when I moved here probably thought any of that was going to happen within a 10-year period. And here we are, under 10 years, and I got all that done. None of it was easy by any means, but they didn't understand, and now they do. I remember when I started this podcast, one of my very first episodes, and what a year! What a year! I learned a lot. I feel like my audio is definitely much better than my first couple episodes. Just trying to figure the thing out, going out and winging it. One thing I mentioned is identifying your why and your purpose. How I mentioned earlier in the video, right? This one for me. One first thing that I did was like identifying who I was. So I had to ask myself, what's the purpose of me going down this path, aka moving, going to school, going to Pittsburgh? Um, what's my why behind all this? Now, my why kind of changed after I had my first son, because obviously now I have someone much bigger than me and a responsibility much bigger than myself that I have to make sure they're taken care of and good. So, that was a big moment for me in life because it's like one of the first times that I had to realize like it's not just me or it's not just my partner. I have someone that I had full responsibility for. They're my kids. So that kind of changed things. I'm not saying to go out and just popping babies out, right? I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that why kind of motivated me and helped me accelerate and grow as a person. So once I identified my why and I stuck to my why, I got to work. Giannis once said, I don't define myself by what I do. I define myself by who I am. And I love that quote because I define myself of who I am and not what I do. And that really resonates with me. So basically, the way I took it, no matter what, win or lose championship or not, Giannis stays true to himself because he understands that he doesn't do it for other people. But he also doesn't do it just for him. He does it for his kids. He does it for his loved ones. He doesn't do it for other people's validation, I should say. Um, he does it because it helps him as a person, and he always envisioned him being great. If you watch his clips of him going through the draft process, him getting drafted, him being a rookie, these are all things that he said he wanted to be. He understood the sacrifices and everything that came with that. So with that being said, understand your why and understand that it's going to be a grind, it's going to be a process, but the fruits of your labor is going to pay off, and it's going to feel so good once you start seeing your goals being hit. It's going to feel so good when you're going through that to-do list and you're checking things off, checking this off, checking this off, major goal, checking it off. And it's just going to push you for more. But you got to be mentally clear. You got to be ready. You hear me throughout this podcast, and you got to block out noise, block out distractions. Because with all that, it's going to interfere and you never hit your true potential. It's not going to be easy. I keep saying it throughout the whole video. It's not going to be easy, but it is possible. You just have to envision yourself doing it and where you want to be. All right. To close us out, why you need to be dedicated to beat the odds. One of my favorite motivational speakers, Eric Thomas. I've been listening to Eric Thomas since high school. He once said, you owe it to yourself to be great. This ran through my head over and over and over again because I think you do owe it yourself to be great. Like I said earlier, you only get one chance of life. You only get one life, and you being great will then benefit the loved ones around you, will then benefit the community that you have, the vision you want in life. But people never get there because they lack dedication, they lack discipline, and a purpose on what they're trying to achieve in life. We can say all this, but if you don't have those core principles, it's not going to be as easy as you think. Um, you know, you have people who have a really good career, make a buku amount of money, but it only takes 1 week for them to lose everything that they have. So, don't pay attention to what's on social media. Don't pay attention to your neighbors because what they're driving and what they're living in could be a facade of what's really going on behind closed doors. And that's why you just need to focus on yourself. And that's why you need to focus on owning to yourself to be great. The more you get out of other people's business, the more you can focus on your business. So you have to stay locked in to what you are trying to achieve, not what others try to achieve. You want to be, you obviously want to be happy for your boys. You want to be happy for your family. You want to be happy for your loved ones, when they have a great milestone and things like that. You want to celebrate that. But at the end of the day, don't compare yourself to that because you may have a different goal or different vision in life than what that said person. And like I said, people who are in those bigger houses drive those nicer cars. They could be drowning in debt and they could be miserable because they're home poor. You have a great home, great car, but you can't do anything because you got to pay all your bills. Or you can use your credit cards and just go crazy with the credit cards, and then put yourself in the further debt that you're never going to get out of. So again, don't worry about what other people are doing. It's your life, your timeline. You have a set plan. Stick to the plan. It will not be easy. God will test you. You will have your lows and you will have your downs and you will want to quit, but you have to remind yourself why I'm doing this. You have to remind yourself the purpose that you have in life, and you have to remind yourself when you go and think about positive things, manifest positive things will happen. But you can't go through life negatively and expect positive. And that's just straight up what it is. You will be tested. You will be kicked down to the ground. It's how long you're going to be down in order for you to get up and build yourself back up. Like they say, God put his people through his toughest people through the toughest situations. It's up to you to navigate how to grow from that and get out of that situation. Not going to be easy. It's going to be mentally draining. But again, understand what you want to do in life and understand how you're going to get there, create your roadmap, stick to your plan. Thank you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I hope y'all have a good day.